we're on the Garcia 52 Exploration. Test sail of this beautiful boat. We're in 27 to 30 knots of wind, 2.5 to 3 meter swell. I don't normally do it this way round. We've just furled in the head sail. We're on the staysail. As you can see, they're going to be moving the other backstay aft, so we can furl it out again. We have the owner on board. This boat was splashed a week ago, so they've been putting it through its paces. First reef in the main. Fantastic. Okay, we're going to do this a bit differently this time. So, Garcia 52 Exploration. As you can see forward, I have a double barrel integrated, obviously, barrel roller. So you can set up an anchor onto mooring ball, however you want to configure it. Your forward furler is for the Genoa, and then forward you can put a Jenica, asymmetrical. It's up to you. Configure how you want. And then behind me we have the staysail, or staysail jib as they call it. And you do have a point further forward for a storm jib. The hatches forward we'll go through as we go around the boat. This one's been set up with the cork deck. It's impregnated cork with resin, and then onto here obviously you have non-slip, which today is absolutely brilliant. The hatches are raised. Obviously, if you have water going over the deck, that's one of the downsides to having flush hatches, because they're more likely to leak. Forward, Gerards, vents, both port and starboard, and then we're on to the mast. When I actually get into the marina, you'll have a look. Your anchor windlass and all your chain. As you can see, carbon spinnaker pole, twin spreader mast. Something this owner went for the option is the solid steel railing, which is very, very practical. And there obviously you have your granny bars, which on a day like today is very useful. Standard slab, drop sail. You've got your lazy bag, lazy lines. You can, as an option, have this with in-mast furling. As you can see, we'll go through this again, I should imagine, but all your sails systems, So, you know, reefs, mainsail, halyard, all that sort of stuff. Come down and then run all the way through along the deck. Lumar Genoa tracks, both starboard here and over on the port side, and you have outboard shrouds. And again, but as you can see on the coach roof, there are grab holds all the way along. So I think it's brilliant. Solid stainless steel rail, and then just over you have a grab rail. Very, very safe. Some of your line for your furlers and stuff like that, management system, and your sheets for the Genoa and staysail. Very handy step to go up onto your coach roof, cabin top. And then before we go around into the cockpit, you can see lines, as we showed you, come all the way down under through the deck and then into a bank of clutches. So obviously you've got them both at port and starboard. As you can see here, spinnaker, jenica, centerboard up and down, and secondary, so on. Quite self-explanatory. Secondary winches, you have both port and starboard, 2 Anderson 52 self-tailing electric winches. It's quite nice to see the ring block for your lines. Coming aft, we have this owner, brilliant option, chose a gin and tonic chair. So, spoke about the back stays. You can see you have an adjustment area. Click your back stays, and your back stays go directly to a winch. And obviously, if you've got a jenica or a code or a spinnaker, you can actually run back to this winch here. This is a manual Anderson self-tailing 40. It's quite a busy boat. Very much like the 60 or the 45, the stern is a very large open scoop. Have a passerelle down on here in case you need it, or swim ladder, depending on which option you've chosen. This particular boat on the port side, you can see there is an outboard mount. We're going to do the lockers in a second, but port side you have your freshwater shower, and the hot and cold water tap is here. There is a large locker on the port side, and this actually goes up for your mains electric, but as you can see down through the hull, and it goes down, and that is repeated over on the port side. So I won't open that one. Underneath on the scoop, I'll just jump off again quickly. So as you can see, starboard port, there's access to services and a little storage underneath there. And this in the centre part, as you go into, as your steps up, you have your life raft, and at the moment they're still doing bits of work on here, so you know you've got other gubbins. And just to the side there is another storage locker. On the starboard side, there is access. These are obviously watertight lockers. You have access to the starboard steering, and inside that is actually a watertight hatch. You can have access from the inside too. This particular boat is set up with one autopilot. There is a second autopilot being fitted for a redundancy. As you can see, when we were on the helm, it's a dual helm, obviously. They're putting her to bed now, so I've got to be quick. Jeff is steering. I'll start on the port side. So Anderson 62 self-tailing electric winches, and as we said earlier, Anderson 52 electric self-tailing winches there. All your main sheet, Solent sheet, staysail and so on comes back underneath to a block of clutches here, or a bank of clutches. And as we showed on the starboard side earlier, you have another bank, and this is all the you can see you've got a deck management system underneath, so everything runs back. You've got your vang, your reef, etc., and your clutches for your Genoa track. Sinrad autopilot, and your B&G thing for VHF and so on. Once again, 62 self-tailing 2-speed electric. I'll show you the switches for the electric. So obviously both starboard here and port over here, and we showed these on the 62. Instead of switching over for dual speed, I'm not going to. So if you lightly touch the switch, it's slow, and then if you push harder, it speeds up. So you get your dual speed just by the touch. Very, very simple. And then obviously this is for your secondary winch. Nice and easy, nicely done. Over on this helm there is a B&G repeater. The owner chose to have USB charging here, so he can actually fix an iPad or something like that up here with Navionics instead of having another chart plotter, which I think nowadays is actually a good option. And your Volvo Penta engine control, start stop and so on are here, and electronic throttle controls, bow and stern thruster. It's a very, very nice bit of kit. And then obviously all this side you saw earlier. Nice large cockpit table in the middle, and both starboard and port there are reasonably large lazarettes for storage. We had all the mooring lines and all the covers for the tables and the wheels and etc., all stored in there, and there's more room. You'll see, I'll come over here on the port side, both port and starboard you have a compass and another B&G repeater, and that is repeated over on the starboard side and then into the spot I was in earlier. So I'll give you an actual view pano. I'll re-record this just in case the other recording didn't come out. Over on the starboard side you have a B&G, I think it's a 12-inch Zeus chart plotter, and then over on the port side your B&G autopilot repeater, and then sort of all your deck lights, spreader lights, well, you guys can read, it's all there. There's a 12-volt charger and USB charging. Both port and starboard. I won't repeat it on the starboard. You've got some really good handy storage here, and if it did come out, you'll know that this is actually a really nice protected area when underway. It kept the wind out, and this canopy actually rolls down and closes down. You see the little bits and over by the table, so that the hatches at night time, if you're moored up somewhere, you can have the hatches open and have a little bit of a draft. One of the things that Garcia is famous for, and that's their lockable double glazed insulated doors. So we'll actually go in and down the companionway. This is one of the things that marks a company that knows their boat's going to sea. As you're going through the companionway, there's a handhold. There's a handhold. There's one forward, just in case. One here, and you know, the arms of your chairs there are handholds too. So there's three. They're quite steep steps, but you have this handle up above, and you drop it into what is the Garcia signature raised saloon. Let's step up, actually before I step up into the saloon, so you can see this table actually drops down. It's extended out at the moment, and these bars slide in, so if you wish, this top section will come in, but that drops down and it'll give you a really nice double bed lounge area for day sailing. Just behind you have a mains plug and USB charging. Behind on the starboard side here, behind all the seats, there are storage cupboards. So you have 1, 2, 3 storage cupboards along there, which is really, really handy. And under here, starboard side, you'll be able to see you have the really tall central heated, because obviously all Garcia is central heated. There's a 100-litre water tank, which we're going to have a look at in a minute. There's a lot of information to get in on these boats. It's not simple as just walking around with a camera. So you have double glazed windows, and the hull, you have 75mm of insulation onto the aluminium hull. So port side, this particular owner is set up with a saltwater manual flush toilet, which I think is very sensible to have one on the boat at least, and a separate shower on the port side. The owner's friend is on board, nice gentleman. He's 6'3" and still has plenty of head height in the saloon, in the galley. There you go, you have a nice sink and some... I'm not going to open everything because, you know, they're getting this ready to take home on Friday, and today is Tuesday, so in a few days. There's obviously storage in the mirror behind there, and you have a large opening port light for all those vapours, and the Garcia system. So you have a reversible air system. You can bring air in, but it works thermostatically with a certain amount of humidity. I have to find out how it works exactly. Too much steam, too much humidity, it actually takes it out of the boat, so you're not having to worry about condensation or mould, which I think is absolutely brilliant. Just in front of the heads, wow, that's heavy. Heavy and hot. You have a side access panel down to your part of your mechanical space. I don't know if you can see, but this is a Volvo Penta D3 150 horsepower engine. Obviously shaft driven. You can see some of the skeleton of the hull down there. And secondary access, it's just on the starboard side. You can see the hatch there. Obviously you want to be able to get to all your filters. Whew. I've had a lot of fun sailing. Okay, underneath the saloon there is saloon, there is storage for crockery and a large drawer, same amount of space underneath. And coming into the galley, you'll notice there is a handrail all the way along, and then port side deep fiddles, and something that they're quite good at Garcia and Allure. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but this is actually curved. And if any of you ever know with straight fiddles or corian, you tend to, especially in the corners, you'll get a build up of dirt and muck. But as they've curved it, it's really easy to clean it out. Joinery is really nice. As you can see, obviously they've got their coffee machine set up. Before we get over to the cooker, you have obviously your set of drawers, self-closing. There's one underneath, and and your stainless steel fridge, freezer or fridge. Had a couple of people complain that I should have the camera set on widescreen, where it's always set on widescreen, so I've put it on ultra wide, and it's proving to be a bit of a pain. But there we go. By your cooker you have an opening port light, and I think there is an option, but it hasn't been ticked, for a hood here. But this one's set up with a gas 3 gimbaled stove, really nice Ocean Chef gimbal stove and oven. Depending on your options, you can have an induction hob if you want. Like the fact that it's slide drawer cupboards, and these are very deep, which is really handy with all your bottles and things like that, so they don't get broken. And they go back a long way, and there's an extra, you know, if you've got spices and things, a really handy little shelf up here. Have little bits and pieces. And these cupboards obviously go all the way along for the length of the galley, and at the end you'll see, I'm trying to get a better angle for you guys, there is a microwave, and once again fridge, freezer. I'll only open one so you get the idea. So this is set up for a fridge, but you can set them up any way you want. Nice to have the C locks, and obviously maybe freezer at the bottom. Plenty of storage underneath your sink, both sides, and that side's your waste, and I'll show you in a second, there's a top waste thingy. Once again, you'll notice as we go around, there's a really nice polished aluminium band. You know, it's just nice little touches. So there's for your waste. Draining stainless steel, and then you have a large stainless steel with draining. Fresh water, hot and cold, with faucet, which is really handy for rinsing stuff off, and salt water, and obviously your salt water pump is directly below. And once again, there are services down here. It's a big galley. Behind the seat There is more cupboards and wine storage. Something I really like, which is directly behind. You have little sort of work surface, wine storage here. To give you an idea where we are, obviously the saloon is just there. So this is the back of the chair, and then more handy spaces for glasses, more cupboards. So you have 3 cupboards in a line. There's sea bars in, or sea locks on, don't know where it is. And then you have 3 pull-out drawers all the way along. And in the floor, access to tanks. So it's diesel tank. And then forward, before we get to the nav station, water tank. There is a water manifold and water filters. So somewhere there will be a water maker. All easy and accessible to get to. I don't know if you remember when we did the allure from the steps, so you'll see these all over the boat wherever there's steps. Garcia do the same. You have these fabulous mood lights, and obviously if you set it up at night when you're on watch, they will shine red. And here, just by the nav station, is your viewing port for your centerboard. The lines run to a jammer in the helm, so it's all there. Easy to get to. So underneath, the chair for the nav station pulls out, so you can extend it, which obviously more sociable for eating. And when you're underway, it gives you a longer seating area. Underneath the nav desk, there is another radiator. Once again, even on here, you've got that really nice polished aluminium band. That is a big USP for these boats, and that is their large forward raised facing nav station. This is an option. I've said on previous videos before, it's an option I would definitely go for. This owner has. You have electronic throttle controls inside the boat. Being at your nav desk. I know we're back in the marina now. I do apologise. I should have done this when we were out, but just having too much fun. I should probably get told off by the guys at Garcia, but it is what it is. So you have, I'm going to spin the camera, basically 360-degree view almost. You can see out into the cockpit. You can see your sails, your boom on either side. And so engine start stop, engine counter, B&G repeater, B&G autopilot, a 15-inch Zeus chart plotter, and you have your VHF radio. While we're here, something I'd like to point out, catches on the top, and everything is super accessible from up here. So I'll show you with where the nav screen is. You're not having to pull panels apart. All the wires are numbered and labelled, so you can either have a look in the manual, or with Garcia's technical service. If you get a signal or you've got GPS, just buzz them a message or phone them up and say this and this is going on, and they'll pretty much tell you how to fix it there and then. Just before we go into the forward cabin, there is 2 steps down, little library area and access to more services. I don't know where the light switch is, so terribly sorry about that, guys. But you have a main a breaker here and so on. So you'll be familiar by now with the C-Zone screens. So obviously you can go through, it's not mine, I'm not going to mess with it, but it'll show you how much fuel you have, sailing lights. Instead of having a big switchboard, outside lighting for you know, I'm not going to mess around with anything. Shows you how your, you know, batteries are. So I'll leave it at that. And there is storage underneath and above for handy bits and pieces. Right, coming into the forward cabin. So this is the VIP or owner's cabin. It's a very large, spacious double cabin. I'll show you the cabin and then I'll show you where the winch and so on is at the mast. So you have an outboard king size berth, which is really nice. Here you have your mast post, and then inside, I'm going to show you in a second, you have your well for your anchor chain and so on, keeping it all central. Obviously vents for air con, reading lights, storage behind the bed. As I said, I'm not going to go into all these bits and pieces because the owner's on board. USB charging there, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 overhead lockers. There are 4 very large drawers underneath. So as promised, I'll show you when we go outside, and we saw this on the 60, but your anchor obviously is all the way forward. Your chain runs all the way back through a pipe. Your anchor's set up forward on the bowsprit, and there is a tube that runs all the way through and under the deck. And then your anchor windlass is set up centrally. So you have your mast, have your windlass, feet control for your windlass, and this own. And here you have your, it's basically the windlass motor. So if there's ever a problem with the windlass, it's really easy to get to. You're not having to go down into some stupid little locker. Easily repairable. And then obviously your chain comes down, follows down, and you have a huge chain locker central and by the mast. So all the way to the boat, all the heavy stuff is kept centrally in the boat, making it better balanced, etc. Okay, there are 2 opening hatches in here, one above the bed for ventilation. At the end of the bed there's a radiator for the central heating, and then over on the port side you have another beautiful port light. There is, I'm going to go over the vanity in a second, USB charging and a reading light. 3 more deep overhead lockers. Obviously storage for books, I don't know, Reed's Almanac or cruising guides or just general reading. And another overhead opening hatch here. You have behind the door, it's loads of space in here. There is a hanging locker. Obviously lights go on as soon as you open it, so plenty of shelves and hanging space. As I say, I'm not going to open all these up because of the owner's privacy. And then underneath there is more storage, and the same there, obviously. Something the owner has just pointed out to me, which I'll show you in a minute. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So port side, you have the vanity or desk, or both. Nice little office area, vanity area, and the seat obviously swings out. There is more storage and access to services underneath the floor. You know how these boats are. And then into the owner's ensuite. So manual flush saltwater toilet with a wet head. As you know, with the 60 it was separate, so a separate shower. There is access to services behind there and black water tank, and then obviously there is storage underneath. Same on this side, storage behind the mirrors, vented cupboards, obviously preventing condensation and mould. And there is something very cool behind this mirror. It's actually a little key that goes in there and locks this off, but you open it up and you have a hatch. It's a watertight hatch which allows you access into their watertight front section. So if you've got heavy seas and you don't want to get spare sails out and so on while you can access from inside from the hatch without having to go outside. And if you have a look, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, if you have a look at all that black, that's that insulation that wraps the aluminium. It's absolutely brilliant. So there's no real need to go outside. And there's another opening hatch in the bathroom here. Let's come. Okay, port side cabin coming aft. You can have there a couple of configurations which you'll see coming up on the screen. Straight forward there is an opening hatch for ventilation. Once again, another grab handle. In the floor, obviously access to tanks, services and mechanical spaces. Once again, this is set up, this particular owner has it set up as a single berth or outboard berth. You have to mind the cushions. These are, when I was telling you about the table in the saloon dropping down, these are the cushions that go on it. But inboard, so you'll see this cutout shape all along here, that's actually a Pullman berth. So you can have two singles in here. There's a radiator underneath, and inboard you have access to your saltwater filters. Got the light on there, that's a bit better for you guys. Manifolds, and as you just in front of there as it goes through to the engine hatch that you saw, and down there, if you can pick it out, is your drive shaft. So plenty of space. I'll just close. On my right there is a set of shelves, so plenty of storage for your guest. C bars in. I've got to find out where the lock for the C bar is. Lower drawer, and then steps forward. Let's see if this one opens. Yeah, so that one opens, and then there's a flat drawer, another flat drawer there. There are drawers underneath the step by the bed. There's the bed there. But there you have your inboard So secondary access to your steering quadrant and autopilot and things like that. So there's no crawling around underneath cabinets, having to squeeze into you know, tiny. So on the starboard side, dropping down, and if you remember from the Garcia 60, this space went a bit lower, but there was a double cabin in here. You can have this configured with a berth in it if you want. I think that would actually be a waste of space. As you can see, this one's been set up with what the French call an atelier, so you have all your spare parts set up in very handy trays. There is a washer dryer. I think this is quite nice. There are two seascape windows to let some extra light in here, and then forward you have access to electric and other services. There's a 100-litre water tank that we're talking about. That'll service all your hot water and your radiators and so on. And then obviously more breakers, electrics. Yeah, so here you go. You've got all your Victron converters and so on. Fuses up here. There is access, you can see there's a panel there. That access panel is by the nav desk, so you can access through there if you need to. All your main wires and so on. So once again, everything is numbered and labelled. Something we'll point out, so wire blocks, if you're going to be connecting other stuff, you see a lot of them where they've just been set off, so this will be set up for another bit of kit that hasn't been ticked in the option box. But inside the box there, it's actually full of silicone, so that you don't get any air condensation or saltwater corrosion, so it's all ready for when you need it. Very, very nice space. But aft is your guest or best mate's cabin. Somewhere for the kids. Very large double king size berth. Outboard you have hanging locker and a shelf. Well, I've open one so you get an idea. Once again, lights go on, so very deep shelves and vented. Once again, so you don't have to worry about condensation or mould. Two nice port light windows, so when you're at anchor you wake up and look out into those beautiful clear blue waters. Opening hatch. Radiator, I like these inline radiators, they're very, very clever. USB charging, reading light, so you've got USB charging both sides. Mains plug. There is access to services, and you have lots of little storage bins, and these run, you know, the entire length of the bed. So there's plenty of storage and access to services underneath. Right, it's a little bit bitsy today, a bit here, a bit there. I'm going to go outside and show you the anchor locker. It's just so you can see the outside of the windlass, because it's the only thing I didn't do when we were under sail. But if there's anything I've missed, let me know in the comments below. As per usual, we'll go and have a quick look, shall we? Oh.